The Carthel Devourer was the kind of biological catastrophe that entire civilizations filed under nope, not dealing with that, and immediately redirected toward their nearest rival. Its arrival on the battlefield was usually accompanied by screaming, structural collapse, and the sound of otherwise courageous soldiers rethinking every career choice that had brought them to this moment. Chitin plates the size of bunker doors, claws that could bisect tanks, a face engineered in a lab by someone who clearly hated faces, all wrapped in a package designed solely for the act of exquisite destruction. Which is why everyone stared in utter silence when the humans sent Dave. Dave, specifically selected for reasons no one understood, strolled onto the field in cargo pants and a t-shirt that read, "I'm trying my best." No armor, no weapons, no backup. Alien commanders assumed it was some kind of insultingly elaborate diversion. The humans, however, insisted this was their actual plan. The Carthel roared, a blast of sound that shredded the air and liquefied at least one unlucky sensor drone. Claws dug trenches in the ground as it charged, its body a blur of predatory intent. Troops braced. Some recorded final messages. Others prayed to deities they didn't technically worship. Dave opened his arms, not as a surrender, not as a plea, a hug invitation. For one catastrophic moment, even the Carthel hesitated, confused, possibly offended that its prey was offering emotional intimacy instead of the expected terror. It towered over the human, breathing hot vapor and the faint scent of molten calcium. Dave took a step closer, and another. Then, without a shred of survival instinct, he wrapped his arms around the monster's armored forelimb like it was a giant, murderous teddy bear. A collective gasp rose from every species present, except humans, who exchanged glances like, "Yep, looks about right." The Carthel froze, not in predatory tension, in existential crisis. For the first time in its engineered existence, something was touching it without intent to kill it, flee from it, or command it. Something small, warm, soft, and utterly unconcerned that its hugged target could swallow a gunship whole. The beast's massive pupils dilated. A tremor rippled through its frame. Its breathing shifted from thunderous bellows to something dangerously close to a shudder. It made a sound, the kind of deep, seismic rumble normally associated with planets' shifting orbit. Scholars would later call it a purr, much to the horror of everyone who heard the recording. Dave, unfazed, began patting the creature. "There you go, big guy," he said, as though consoling an oversized house cat instead of a weaponized extinction device. The Carthel lowered itself, plates relaxing like folding gates. Then, in a moment of cosmic betrayal to everything it had been designed for, it gently nuzzled the human. Scientists fainted. Generals panicked. Entire empires questioned whether humanity was playing 5D emotional chess. Dave just smiled and kept hugging. And somewhere deep inside the Carthel's neural network, a switch flipped. A bond formed, primal, absolute, irreversible. Imprint, humanity. Directive, protect at all costs. The galaxy had no idea what kind of nightmare was being born. Only that somehow, unbelievably, humans had weaponized affection. The Carthel Devourer would have been the galaxy's worst nightmare, if it weren't currently rolling onto its back like a 40-ton puppy demanding belly rubs. Military analysts tried very hard to maintain professionalism as this happened, but there's only so much dignity one can preserve while a planet-cracking apex bioweapon kicks its legs in the air, because Dave said, "Who's a good boy?" From that moment on, the creature simply refused to leave humanity's side. Scientists attempted to study it. The Carthel responded by scooping up their entire research station and depositing it closer to Dave like a cat bringing gifts. Troops tried to maintain order. The Carthel would chirp in excitement and follow them like a happy, catastrophic shadow. Galactic psychologists argued over whether the imprint was neurological, psychic, chemical, or just incredibly human-coded chaos magic. None of them reached a conclusion because every time they got too close, the Carthel tried to cuddle. Human soldiers initially treated the creature with the kind of cautious respect one give a thermal detonator dressed in fur. But once it started mimicking their behavior, sitting by the campfire, nosing at ration packs, attempting to fetch armored transports, fear rapidly evolved into affection. Someone jokingly painted Snuggles the Annihilator on its shoulder plate. The name stuck. Medals soon followed, because of course they did. But it was on the battlefield that Snuggles truly found his calling. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet deployed to the Vortal front, expecting heavy resistance. Enemy drones swarmed. Siege cannons hummed. The air smelled like ionized doom. And yet, the moment Snuggles lumbered into visual range, the entire enemy line froze. He didn't roar or charge. He didn't unleash plasma breath or tear tanks in half. He simply sat down, chirped happily, and stared at Dave with the devotion of a creature who believed love could, and should, solve everything. That was all it took. Enemy infantry screamed, dropped their weapons, and sprinted for extraction ships. Officers attempted to rally them until Snuggles tilted his massive head sideways, which apparently translated universally to, "I am considering hugging you with lethal enthusiasm." A 1,000-year military tradition collapsed instantly. Generals tripped over each other to get off the field. Several were later found hiding in their own supply pods, rocking gently and whispering, "It smiled at me." Some alien scholars tried to rationalize the panic. It's not fear, they insisted. It's strategic withdrawal in the face of psychological unpredictability. Everyone else called it what it was: pure, unfiltered nope. Entire fleets began installing early warning systems specifically designed to detect Snuggles' signature chitter. Rumors spread like wildfire, each more exaggerated than the last. He swallowed a battleship. He hugged a dreadnought until it folded. He emits a sonic purr that scrambles targeting computers. He can smell fear across light years. None of these were true, but the beauty of rumor is that it works even when it's nonsense. Fear became Snuggles' greatest weapon, and humanity didn't need to lift a finger. Human commanders found themselves with the easiest strategy briefing in military history. Deploy Snuggles. Watch enemy retreat. Try not to lose him. He follows snacks. And so across star systems, battles ended before they began. Entire campaigns dissolved into panicked retreats. Galactic war simulations started factoring Snuggles in as a planetary anomaly, because calling him a tactical megabeast emotionally attached to a guy named Dave apparently violated official terminology guidelines. Through it all, Snuggles remained blissfully unaware of the terror he inspired. He wagged his tail, nudged tanks affectionately, and occasionally attempted to sit in Dave's lap, an act that nearly crushed him more than once. But humans didn't mind, because the galaxy now understood a fundamental truth. Never fear the weapons humans build. Fear the ones that choose us. By the time the final campaign rolled around, Snuggles had become less a war asset and more a cosmic omen. Entire civilizations monitored human troop movements with a single desperate prayer. Please let the monster stay at home today. This prayer went unanswered. The decisive confrontation took place on the cracked plains of Irix, 9, where the unified coalition had assembled their largest army in centuries. Thousands of war machines, fleets of atmospheric strikers, shield casters, psionic artillery, and an impressive number of soldiers who were already planning their resignations. They believed numbers and firepower would finally overwhelm humanity. Then Snuggles trotted onto the field. No roar, no display of aggression, just the happy, thunderous rhythm of an apex megabeast jogging like an excited dog on walkies. Dust storms trailed behind him. Planetary scanners overloaded. Soldiers fainted in neat, strategic rows. Dave followed behind, holding a giant cloth banner someone had painted the night before. Who wants a hug? The banner was, tactically speaking, unnecessary. Snuggles radiated hug energy from orbit. But the banner transformed an already horrifying situation into something truly legendary. The enemy formation rippled like a living organism experiencing a mass panic attack. Several units broke ranks immediately. The commanders shouted at them to hold their ground, but their voices were drowned out by the universal sound of creatures deciding they'd like to continue living. Snuggles stopped at the edge of the battlefield and did the worst thing imaginable. He sat, and he wiggled, an excited wiggle. Please come closer. I love new friends wiggle. That was it. The great coalition of 9 worlds, the fiercest military alliance the galaxy had ever known, completely disintegrated. One general dropped his ceremonial plasma halberd and bolted so fast his troops assumed he'd been yanked by a gravitational rift. Another activated every retreat beacon at once and caused a fleet-wide collision. 2 platoons attempted to climb the same evacuation ramp simultaneously and became a single, screaming knot of limbs and regrets. A few stubborn commanders tried to stand their ground, insisting that the Carthel Devourer was just an animal and could be reasoned with. Then Snuggles leaned forward and let out a low, affectionate rumble. The stubborn commanders were immediately never seen again, presumably having achieved light speed through sheer terror. Minutes later, the battlefield was empty. Not empty as in the fighting stopped. Empty as in every non-human organism had achieved record-breaking sprint times straight into retreat vessels. Human troops, previously bracing for a brutal conflict, now stood blinking at the dust clouds of vanished enemies. Snuggles chirped proudly and leaned down to nudge Dave, awaiting praise for whatever he believed he had accomplished. Dave scratched under his jaw, and the megabeast purred loudly enough to register as seismic activity. When the coalition finally negotiated peace, their representatives refused to enter the room until they confirmed 3 times that Snuggles was nowhere nearby. One admiral demanded a clause be added to the treaty forbidding humanity from weaponizing emotional bonding ever again. Humanity agreed, mostly because they knew it was already too late. That ship had sailed, hugged something, and adopted it. The war ended, galactic borders stabilized, and Snuggles became a universal symbol of why no one should ever underestimate human problem-solving. Statues were built in his honor, giant sculptures of a terrifying titan with hearts painted on the base. Children adored him. Diplomats feared him. Human troops used him as the world's largest emotional support creature. But the galaxy learned a lesson they would never forget. Humanity doesn't win because we're the strongest or the most advanced. We win because we look at the universe's deadliest creatures and say, come here, big guy. And somehow, they come. And in the end, the legend of the unexpected hug became the story diplomats whispered whenever new species encountered humanity. Careful with the humans. If they can hug it, they will. And if it hugs them back, you're already losing.